you a busy entrepreneur or aspiring creator and you know you gotta create content for social media, but every time you sit down to click record, it becomes this long, dreaded process of setting up your camera, your tripod, your lighting? Well, don't worry. Today, Jazz and I are gonna show you how we set up our YouTube and social media content creation studio in the comfort of our own home in a spare bedroom that we had. And you are gonna be able to do the same at your house, either in the corner of your living room, basement, or if you got a spare bedroom, we're gonna show you how to do that too.
So Seb and I run a social media and content marketing agency where we help realtors and entrepreneurs build their personal brands. And part of that is creating massive amounts of content, both short form and long form. So when we moved from a 2-bedroom house to a 3-bedroom house, the sole purpose and intention of this was to have an extra bedroom to turn into a full-time filming room. Now, one of the challenges was, how do we actually do this? How do we take an empty bedroom and turn it into a multi-functional, multi-setup studio where we can film both short form content for Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube and podcast long form content. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. Let's dive right in.
So the first thing that you wanna do is decide where you want the studio to live. So if you have a spare bedroom in your house, like we do, this could really be the option for you. But you can also set this up in your basement or your living room, like I said. It really depends on how much space you have allocated, and most importantly, what kind of content you're gonna be creating. Because if you're gonna be creating content for YouTube, that means that you're gonna be filming horizontally, which means you're gonna need more space to film. And if you're filming vertically, well, you don't really need that much space, right? Your framing is gonna go from just over your head down to maybe mid-waist, and that's pretty easy to do anywhere really in your house.
So a big part of preparing any space for transformation is to visualize how it's going to look like. I recommend finding pictures online, creating a Pinterest board or some kind of a mood board, and just to get inspired from even other YouTube videos to see how other people do it and what might work for you. So part of this for us was choosing a wall color that was going to work really well with the backdrops that we wanted and with the lighting setups that we wanted.
So once we decided to use this room for filming, we had a massive problem to deal with. This wall was baby blue. The thing that we decided to do was paint our wall with a matte gray paint. Now, gray is a neutral shade, so it's no color in particular, it's just a shade. So actually the best color for your camera to interpret what the white balance is in a room. Anyways, without getting too technical, we thought gray is a nice neutral color. It's gonna allow all these other colors to pop, such as the green from the lights, the blue from the chair, and the browns from this table. And that's the color that we went with. Now, if you're wanting to paint your room, I highly recommend, and please pay attention, that you use a matte paint. Don't get a glossy paint, because right here we have lights pointing at us. And if we had a glossy paint, you would actually see the reflection of the light on the paint. And you want to avoid that at all costs. It's just not professional and it's not aesthetic. So by having a nice high quality matte paint, you're going to avoid all that reflection and it's going to give you a nice crisp look.
All right, so for the furniture choice, we were trying to decide originally between having 2 armchairs next to each other or having a couch and an armchair. We ended up with a couch and an armchair just to have a couple different options as to, what sets we could use, how we could repurpose them. Typically the 2 armchairs next to each other are a very typical podcasting look, but if podcasting is not your thing, or if you have a podcast but also want to make short form content and other things, then it's good to kind of keep it a little bit more versatile. So we ended up getting this couch, this little couch, custom made to the dimensions that we needed for it to fit this room nicely. And we found a chair just in a local furniture store for a pretty good price. And we chose to go with a blue color to, have a bit of an accent color to pop up from the background, but not have it be too bright. It was gonna be between yellow and blue, we went with the blue.
Now we're gonna be putting the dimensions to this couch in the description, so check that out in case you wanna build your own couch or have it built for you, or find a couch that's relative to this size. So naturally, let's progress into talking about some of the gear in this room, starting with lighting. We have two key lights in this room. One right here, it's an Aperture Amaran 200X bicolor light. We have it on a big octabox diffuser, so it's making the light land really, really nicely on our face, on our skin. And then we have a second light over there. It's a Godox 60-watt light. It's not too powerful, but I'd say it's powerful enough for most cases. And we're just using it to kind of fill in the other side of our face with a small rig 55cm diffuser.
Typically in photography, you want to have your main light and then the fill light. This is photography 101.
And generally you also want to have a bit of a hair light. And this is kind of where we thought about this panel and the accent light over there. By having those lights behind us, we're creating a bit of separation from the background in this very small and tight room. Now, of course, you don't need all this fancy lighting equipment that we use. If you're a beginner and just starting out, the easiest way for you to actually do your lighting is with natural light.
So if you don't have any lighting gear or it just intimidates you too much, make sure that whatever space that you choose is near a window or a natural light source like a window. So in this case, we actually have a window to the left of us, your right. And during the day, I can very easily just open it up or open up the blinds and face the window. And that way I'm just gonna be engulfed in beautiful natural light. So you can always do that.
Now say that your room doesn't have a window and you cannot get natural light, but you're also maybe in a bit of a budget or you just don't want to go too extravagant with your lighting solution. You can use something like this. This is a light by Aperture, and there's many designs and models out there. This is just one that I own, but this is also one that I really like. It's very powerful. It works with a battery at the back. You can also plug it in straight into power adapter and into the wall. And so something like this, you can easily put on a tripod and put it at a bit of an angle, not exactly just in front of you, but a bit of an angle, and that way you're essentially mimicking what these big fancy lights are doing, but you can do it on a budget in a lot less space. If you are curious and interested in some of the lighting solutions that we recommend, we're gonna be putting those in the description below, along with all the other gear that we're gonna be talking about in this video. So we just talked about lighting, and now let's shift our attention over to the camera. You wanna be setting up your camera at the same time that you're setting up your lighting. And you have one very important question to ask yourself, which Jazz already mentioned. What type of content are you going to be creating? So if you're gonna be creating short form content for platforms like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube Shorts, you're gonna want to film vertical. So something like your cell phone could really work, or if you have a fancier camera like the one that we have, you can just put it in that vertical format and you can film very, very easily. But if you're filming something like YouTube videos, then you're gonna want a horizontal camera. Same solution, you can use your phone or your camera and have it horizontal.
Now let's talk about audio. The easiest way to improve your video quality is to have good audio. And the audio that we use are these Hollyland Lark M2 wireless microphones. And Seb actually made a review and unboxing video that you can check out over here. But they are super compact, plug and play, and easy to use. They're actually these little mics that we're wearing right now, and they are just magnetic clip-on mics that you can just clip on your shirt or whatever you're wearing, and they're super, super easy to use. I love them.
So when choosing the best microphone for your setup, you're gonna be running into a whole bunch of different options. I'm actually gonna make a video on that, and I'll link it up here for you to check out. What are the best microphones for different use cases? One of the microphones that you may run into is something like this. This is called a shotgun mic. And this particular one is the Rode NTG. It's a professional, very high quality microphone. We've actually used this in productions with Fortune 500 companies and delivered extremely high quality audio. But in a room like this, these microphones can pick up a lot of the echo because they're very, very sensitive microphones. This Hollyland Lark M2, which is a wireless lavalier microphone, or a dynamic microphone, such as this one. But this is a Fiffin microphone. This is a dynamic microphone. This microphone is traditionally used for instruments, so really loud sources of sound. But when it comes to voice, they're some of the best microphones to use because they give you that radio podcast voice.
Let's talk about the do's and don'ts. One thing you definitely don't want to do is not use any microphone at all. And you don't want to be using the built-in audio in your phone or in your camera. This is generally not going to give you very good sound quality, and it's going to pick up all of the external noises and echo in the room. You also don't want to be using the ceiling lights in the room that you're using. You want to have a little bit more control over the lighting, whether that's using natural lighting and choosing specific times of day to film, or using artificial lighting, which is some of the lighting that we've talked about earlier. And the last thing that you don't want to do is have to set up and pack up every time you film. You want to prioritize having a sustainable workflow and ease of use, and remove any resistance or bottlenecks in your workflow. So find a space in your house or in your room where you can keep your camera, lights, and everything else set up permanently as much as possible.
Okay, now moving on to a couple of do's and best practices. The first one is sound treating your room. We've already talked about how this room has a lot of echo, and you've probably experienced that in your house or in your office as well. One of the best ways to get rid of it is, of course, with a carpet, some furniture that also absorbs sound, but also sound panels. So Jazz and I built out this sound panel, and we put an LED neon light in between it. But basically what these sound panels do is that they absorb the sound that is reflecting off of the walls. So the best way that you can minimize the sound in your room is by putting some sort of sound absorbing material, such as a couch, a rug, or a sound panel, wherever your voice is going to bounce off. Now, another pro tip, and this is another just icing on the cake, not necessary at all, but if you happen to have a spare television or a spare screen somewhere that you can use, we highly recommend that you use that in your studio space. We have a TV right behind the camera, and what that allows us to do is actually a few things. For whenever we have a podcast, we can put our guest on the television. So it's a lot more lifelike to be talking to someone that's, this size versus this size on a little phone or this size on a computer screen. So that really facilitates things. Also, whenever you're doing like talking heads or YouTube videos, it's a really good tool to put your script or your outline, so you can always reference it and talk to the camera without shuffling through papers or shuffling through your phone. And the last best practice that I highly recommend, and this one's specifically for anybody that's running a podcast, I highly recommend that you use headphones when you're recording a podcast. We made the mistake of recording multiple podcasts with the audio from the TV or the audio from the computer. Wear headphones whenever you're doing a podcast. It's gonna save you a lot of time in post-production.
And it's kind of nice hearing your voice in that beautiful dynamic microphone.
It is.
So there you have it. That's how we set up our home studio and how you can do it too.
But wait. Before we end the video, let's talk about cost, right?
Right.
So we've presented a solution that works for us, but what works for us may not work for you, and vice versa. So with that being said, you don't have to dump a whole bunch of money into this. And so in order to help you out, in the description below, we're gonna be putting different setups. We're gonna put one probably around under $200, under $500, and hovering around $1,000. And that'll include the camera, the lighting, the audio, everything in there. So that way you can have a proven guide on what equipment would work best for your budget as well. Remember, it's not about resources, it's about resourcefulness. So we want to be really resourceful with what we already have and the spaces that we have available to us in order to make content as easy and efficient as possible. If you found this video valuable and it helped you out, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Really supports us and we really appreciate that. But also, I want you to leave a comment down below if you have any questions about any of the gear, any of the setup that we mentioned. We love to help you out. So leave your questions, leave your concerns, and we'll make sure to answer all of your comments, maybe by creating another video or replying to your comment. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you the next time.
See you in the next one.
Peace.